Alrighty, so it's been a little while since we've updated the tier list. The last one came out in June, which was when Light Bond came out, and there's a couple of changes that need to be made. So I think what we're going to do is do the tweaks. I am going to be looking at the comments and everything from the last video and sort of just adjusting a few characters if I think that they need to be, adjusted. Obviously, this is a personal tier list, so I get some use out of these characters that maybe you don't, or vice versa. There are units that I just don't use, and therefore I see them as less valuable. But obviously, if you have any feedback or any sort of changes that you would make on the tier list, feel free to let me know. But let's do some jump cuts here and adjust some of these characters really quickly. So first up, we're going to move Freyr back up to S tier, because honestly, I moved him down because he had not dropped his relic yet as of the time of me recording the last one, and he is definitely, proven to be very, very useful, especially in, in Nidhogg. He was really good after his relic came out in a couple of other scenarios, so he's moving back up. I also got a comment about Escanor needing to be moved down to S tier, and honestly, I think I can get behind that after using him recently in PvP. I do think that he's not nearly as good as he maybe used to be. He's obviously still like god tier when it comes to PvE scenarios, but for all-around usability, I'll keep him in S tier. I don't think he's going to probably leave S tier for a very long time, and he still has potential to get a relic sometime in the future, so that may end up bumping him back up at some point, but who knows. We're going to move him down to S tier for now. Next up, we are going to move Skadi up to S tier. I got a comment saying that it's really nice that she's like a direct counter to Bond, and with the human team being pretty, nasty at the moment, it is kind of nice to be able to just run Skadi to sort of counter the Bond play, because he puts on so many debuffs and everything like that. Plus, one of the more recent Ragnarok teams that you can use for Nidhogg actually uses Skadi, and it's actually really, really nice. It was very well put together whenever I was using it. I have now swapped over to the newer goddess team because of Freyja, or not Freyja, but Margaret. But yeah, I do think that she actually deserves S tier. She might not be the most useful to every single person out there, and even though mine is only 1/6, I still think that she's really, really nice to have, especially if you're running like giant comps and stuff like that, which obviously are very few and far between. But I do think that she's a really unique and interesting character that has really good use when it comes to like certain metas and stuff like that, and some PvE capabilities as well. So I'm okay with giving her the S tier, but it's pretty borderline. I might end up moving her back down at some point in the near future. Next up, I think we're going to move Diane back down to S tier. I moved her up to SS tier because I really liked her relic, and she was like really hard to get through when it came to the PvP meta, and she still can be really hard to get through, but at the same time, I don't think she necessarily deserves SS tier. Like, she's not really making most of the teams. Like, if you use a giant comp, she's probably the go-to unit for actually dealing damage, but it's going to take a lot of build-up, and you're basically relying on having a high ult level with a stance active while you use it for her to even really be able to wipe or do really big damage. I mean, sometimes the pulverized card can do well, but overall, we're going to move her back down to S tier because she's still a really, really good utility, but maybe not like SS tier, you know what I mean? Alrighty, so that is looking pretty decent at the moment. I have to say, I think for me personally, just looking at it, I think I'm going to go ahead and move Mael down to S tier as well, because he's honestly not super, super good anymore. Like, his ultimate is still phenomenal, don't get me wrong, but the goddess team has dropped off tremendously. He does have good use in Nidhogg if you have high ult levels. I mean, even then, he still does really good damage. You're just not going to be able to apply your stacks from the ultimate on that one, but his PvP usability has gone way down. No one's using him anymore unless you just ult rush with a goddess team. That could change as of the time of me recording this. The next update that comes out, we're getting a new Green Elaine, so they're not on the tier list. And then we're also getting an LR Red Elizabeth. So that could end up changing. I've seen a little bit, and it seems like she might actually be usable for PvP, which might make the goddess team a little bit more relevant, but altogether, I'm okay with this. I'm kind of tempted to move Bond up. He's definitely been a little bit more useful lately, but at the same time, I think you kind of have to rely on building a team around Bond, and it can be a little weird sometimes. So I'm not super comfortable with that. Let me know your thoughts on Bond maybe, but the rest of this stuff seems pretty okay. I don't think there have been any huge relics that have come out lately, at least, so I don't think I'll have to worry about readjusting any of these characters for the moment. But either way, let's get into the characters that I don't have on the tier list. It has already shaken up to these characters, unfortunately. I had them all in order, but I didn't have Waillo on the tier list for whatever reason. I'm going to put him in F tier because he is a PvP exclusive character, and if you don't know what he does, he has a crit chance lower card, and he has a solidify card, which makes him pretty bad. His ultimate disables ultimate moves, and he increases the hero's attack by 30% for each female ally on the battlefield, which is kind of cool, but he's an SR unit. He's exclusive to PvP. Not a whole lot of people have him. He doesn't have any extra costumes. He's pretty bad. So, F tier. Collection-wise, very cool unit, but usability, unfortunate. Next up, we have, I think Tyr is the first unit on the tier list that is new for this one. Tyr is honestly insane. Tyr was like the beginning of the new power creep wave. I genuinely think that he deserves SS tier. He really is like big damage, crazy PvP unit. He can be used in PvE scenarios as well. I use him for like quick clearing stages and stuff like that sometimes when I have to blow through a whole bunch of stuff, or like battle events or whatever, you know, the case may be. But with a Ragnarok team, this man is an absolute menace. Obviously, he's on the downtrend a little bit as far as PvP goes right now, but that doesn't make him any less good. He's still phenomenal. I think just more people are just running demons at the moment, but I do genuinely believe he is SS tier. So, next up, I'm pretty sure it was Green Freyja next. I have to say, she's a pretty good unit. I think I'm gonna put her in S tier. She does make it to where a unit specifically has to attack her, which is really nice. Her single targets do a really good amount of damage. You can use her on Nidhogg. Unfortunately, you won't get use out of her passive because it's PvP only. I'm kind of tempted to throw her in A tier, but she does good enough damage, and she's still pretty modern and new to where she actually has some pretty decent usability. So I'm going to keep her in S tier for now. She doesn't have quite the same usability as the red one, but I do think that she's still a pretty solid unit overall. Let me know your thoughts on that one. I probably could be swayed, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that one. So next up we have, I'm pretty sure it's Demon King is next. So with Demon King, I think it's safe to say he is like just the best character probably in the game right now. Maybe not for like all PvE scenarios, but still pretty usable in most PvE scenarios. You can use him in like, I mean, people are using him for dogs and bird and deer and stuff like that. Obviously not great for Nidhogg because it's so specific and you have to have a really well-built and balanced team for that game mode, or for that boss in general. But absolute menace in PvP right now. Completely understand why everybody's using him, even if it is super annoying. And just, you know, if there's a big new unit that's really good, people are going to use him. It is what it is. So I do think that he deserves SS tier. He was, you know, the next character after Freyr, or Tyr, sorry, that has just sort of joined this new wave of insane power creep. So he is a very, very solid unit. Next up we have Red Margaret. If I'm not mistaken, I think I have a section, yeah, with all of the, like, sort of demonic beast characters. I'm going to plug her straight into there. She can actually be okay with her blue card. It's not too bad in other game modes, but, you know, obviously her passive is locked down to Nidhogg only, so she's technically just a demonic beast unit, which makes her A tier because she is really good for that game mode, but she's just very specifically locked down to one boss in that game mode, which makes her, you know, a little bit less usable, so she doesn't really deserve SS or S tier. Next up, we have Green Matrona. Green Matrona is very interesting. I would give her probably B tier. She's okay. Her relic is kind of like just the nice part about using any Matrona, and she can actually tank moderately well. I did actually experiment decently with her whenever she came out on the channel. If you haven't seen those videos, feel free. But yeah, I don't know. She's not like anything crazy at the moment. Obviously, with new giants coming out potentially in the future at some point, who actually knows when that will be, she could potentially be a little bit more usable or shoot up in value, you know, then. She was a step-up banner, so she was super, super cheap. Really not the greatest unit to have dropped in recent times by any means, and we're kind of in this weird stale part of banner releases at the moment because of the new collab not being as good. But you know, there's a lot of weird banners that maybe aren't the most hype, but hopefully, you know, going in towards the end of the year, everything will start to pick up, and you know, this might be a good time to start saving your gems, skipping all of these banners that, you know, you're not interested in, because obviously there's going to be some crazy stuff around the corner. So next up we have the 2 new AoT units. I guess technically I do need to adjust the old AoT units. All 3 of these ones are sitting in D tier, and Eren is actually in C tier. I would probably move old Eren back down to D tier, if I'm being honest, because he didn't get a stat buff, if I'm not mistaken, and they didn't adjust his kit or anything like that. I would give Levi, honestly, give Levi at A tier, because Levi has become way more usable, even with his like relic not being the greatest. I did use him in PvP on Gon's account, which obviously that's a little skewed because he has 16 million box CC, but very good for certain PvE scenarios. Actually was decently usable in PvP, not the greatest by any means. I would say he's low A tier, maybe B tier. On the lower end if you're not as big of a fan of him, but I think Levi actually did age moderately well. Mikasa, unfortunately, as like disappointing as it is that she's like a PvE exclusive character now. I mean, you can use her passive in all game modes, but her relic kind of locks her down to PvE. I actually do think that she's okay. She's not great. She's not bad. I would give her maybe C tier. So we'll just move her up to C tier. And then honestly, after using Eren, he is absolutely unusable. I used him on Gon's account as well, which is 16 million box CC, and he legitimately could not do like damage for any reason at all. Like even with decent boosters and stuff like that, I'm honestly gonna lower him down to F tier. He's actually unusable. Like I don't know what you'd be able to get any use out of him for, but transforming units are really bad, and he is really bad, so I'm lowering him down. We're gonna give Green Levi, honestly, is probably the better of the 2 right now. I'm not 100% confident in it, but I'm gonna give him S tier, because his infect is really nice. If you meet the circumstances to actually proc his mark of lethality and everything, he can actually do some good damage, and you kind of use him as a support unit to help your allies crit more consistently and deal big damage. So I do think that he's a really good support. I would say he's borderline low S tier or top of A tier maybe. So I can maybe be swayed on that one a little bit. I think I'm gonna keep him in high A tier maybe for right now. Eren, on the other hand, is pretty unusable at the moment. The only time I was able to get really good results out of him was when I used him with Droll, and 90% of the time you're going to run into Demon King, which means that Droll's commandment is locked and you're not actually going to be able to get the use out of the character that you should be using. So I'm going to give him B tier. I don't think that he deserves to be any lower than this because he can deal some pretty decent damage. Both of the characters have pretty good ultimates. Eren's, I've seen really drop the ball, but he's incredibly circumstantial. Like, you need to have him in, like, the absolute perfect scenario for him to do well, which is just not good because, most characters, the more specific they are, the less usable they are, which makes them, worse. So I'm going to give him B tier. That may be me being, biased. I might be a little bit generous here. Some of you would probably put him lower, I have no doubt. But I do think that there's a lot of potential for the unit in the future. We'll see how the meta sort of develops and goes, and, maybe he'll become a little bit more relevant later on. But a B tier is about as good as I can do. LR Escanor, on the other hand, I genuinely do think LR Escanor is a little overrated. I'm going to give him SS tier because he can deal tons of damage. I personally like Lost Vein more when it comes to LR because he is not locked down to a specific team. You can use him on the Sins team, which is relevant right now. You can use him on the Demon team, which is relevant right now. You don't even have to use him with those two teams. You can literally use him on whatever. You can ult rush with him. You can do whatever you want with him. He's great in a lot of PvE scenarios. I've been using him in OG Demon lately, and boy oh boy, he does 1,000,000 damage in phase 2, and you can just easily save cards for the last phase. I don't know, it's really nice, actually. It's really, he's a really, really nice unit. The only thing I don't like about Escanor is that he is literally locked down to a full, pure human team. You cannot even use, like, Zeldris backline or anything like that. You have to have humans as far as the eye can see, even in the sub slot, or else his passive does not work, and without his passive, he drops off hard. So, the fact that he is literally locked down to human team, and the human team is not maybe the greatest in the game right now, it definitely can be good. I'm not saying that it's not, but because he is so specific and, you know, locked into one team, it's not as good. So that makes, you know, his potential for, you know, different teams and stuff like that obviously go way down. So he's just a little bit less versatile than Melee is. Still incredible damage on the man. Like level 1's doing like 300-400k is phenomenal. And you know, if he crits, he's doing huge damage. If he doesn't crit, it's very unfortunate, but he still does okay damage. But yeah, I think that's pretty much where I'm sitting. I don't have any new characters to sort of add to the board right now. I don't think there's anything else that I really can see off the top of my head that I need to tweak or anything. Maybe some of these characters I need to go through at some point and maybe adjust them, because obviously as time goes on, you know, I put these out every couple of months, and power creep in this game can take over in an instant. Some of these units might end up needing to be just, you know, sort of lowered because power creep has sort of either made them less usable, worse, there's a new replacement for the unit for whatever they were used for, you know, different stuff like that. So either way, that is pretty much it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If, like I said in the beginning, if you have any sort of opinions or you would move this character or anything, let me know. I mean, you might be able to sway me, but like I said at the beginning also, this is a personal tier list, so this is just kind of sort of where I'm at, where I'm sitting with these characters. You know, some things, you know, could be better. You might be able to change my mind, but that's pretty much it from me. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe. I will see you guys later.